Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And today we have to talk about artificial intelligence and journalism because quite frankly, they don't mix. Now I've got a lot of thoughts on this given all the writing that I do myself, but I want to dive into the nuts and bolts as to why I'm bringing this up and then offer my thoughts because apparently quotes from Wyoming's governor and a local prosecutor were the very first things that seemed off to basically a competing newspaper's reporter, CJ Baker, writing for the Powell Tribune. Now, on top of that, he noticed some phrases that seemed kind of robotic. And so the dead giveaway, basically to Baker, essentially was the use of generative AI to help write those stories. And so that's obviously a huge thing. And so by virtue of that, when he was reading this article, it concluded with something known as the inverted pyramid. This is the basic approach to essentially writing a breaking news story. And so I quote the Coady Enterprise. Now, that is the competing publication to CJ Baker's Powell, and here's what's going on. And see if you can spot where the AI kicks in, if it isn't through the whole thing. And I quote, "The 2024 Coady Stampede Parade promises to be an unforgettable celebration of American independence led by one of comedy's most beloved figures." In this case, it's Larry the Cable Guy. I continue and spot it right now. "This structure ensures that the most critical information is presented first, making it easier for readers to grasp the main points quickly." End quote. Now, that seems really out of character, and that is, in fact, the inverted pyramid that journalists use when writing breaking stories. Why would you put that in to basically an article talking about Larry the Cable Guy and the Coady Stampede Parade out of Coady, Wyoming? And so after doing some digging, Baker, who has been a reporter for more than 15 years, met with that reporter, Aaron Pelzar. He's a 40-year-old who is just new to journalism, who Baker says then admitted that he used artificial intelligence in his stories before he resigned from the Coady Enterprise. Now, the publisher and editor at the Enterprise have since apologized and vowed to make steps that essentially ensure this will never happen again. In an editorial published this past Monday, Enterprise editor Chris Bacon said that he failed to catch the AI copy and false quotes and apologized that, quote, "AI was allowed to put words that were never spoken into stories," end quote. So that's one of the big issues that we've got here. Journalists have derailed their careers in the past by making up quotes or facts and stories way before AI was even a thing. But this right here, AI being integrated with a copy, paste, and go, an instant quote, illustrates the potential pitfalls and dangers that artificial intelligence poses to many industries, including journalism, as chatbots can basically just crank out a whole bunch of stuff and make it seem plausible right just with a few prompts. And I've done this. I've written articles where I've said, like, look, I had AI write this paragraph to show how it can fill in the blanks as a demonstration of that. I'm very clear that the AI wrote that paragraph. And this is what we're talking about. Now, being upfront about how and when to use AI or when it's just used in general is incredibly important. So, for example, Sports Illustrated was criticized last year for publishing AI-generated online product reviews that were presented as having been written by reporters that didn't actually exist. Now, after that story broke, Sports Illustrated said it was firing the company that produced those articles for its website. But obviously, it damages reputations. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Now, when I am writing an article, whether it's for Forbes or Smerconish or anything else, I usually have an editor that is putting me through the paces. In other words, they're checking my facts, checking my links. Hey, Nick, this is an argument. Can you actually back this up with facts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? One of those things that is beyond important to essentially the reputation, but also information delivery, is accurate facts, is accurate representation. If I was a beat reporter getting quotes from whomever, and this Baker, the one using AI, had spurious quotes from allegedly Wyoming's governor, which never existed, these quotes never existed, this is the problem. Now, the other side of this as well is that we have essentially, especially in the age of disinformation, a subset of the population that looks at essentially news in and of itself as this whole fake news. They're going to deliver what they want to deliver, when understand that most of the news, especially major publications, have an editorial process. And for every time that some reporter is caught, using, AI or making up a quote, it really degrades essentially what actual legitimate journalists are doing. And the overwhelming amount of news that is published is as accurate as humanly possible. The other thing that journalists do and publications is they issue retractions. They say that they're wrong. This is different than watching some BS video on TikTok from somebody that basically is turning something into hyperbole, misinformation or disinformation, or one of these very partisan, on the extremes of the political spectrum, quote unquote, news sources that doesn't fact check, that takes things out of context, that applies, logic or some other type of emotion, into this, when quite frankly, we should just be looking at the facts. And so I'm not a fan of this. If you're a longtime listener or follower of mine, you know that I try to spend as much of my time getting to the facts, getting rid of the hyperbole, not thinking about the political side of this. Just as this is what's happening on the ground, the rest is speculation. And quite frankly, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so when you have a situation like this where somebody is basically going off and just making up quotes, that's a huge issue. Mistakes happen, but you'll note that the Coty Enterprise owned it. And that is a huge difference between all of this hyperbolic crap you'll see on Twitter and TikTok and everything else. Because while mistakes happen, owning it, correcting the record is what the Fourth Estate is there for. It's there to check the government. It's there to make sure that we have free and fair news, to make sure that we are informed and not simply misled like an authoritarian regime would do. So this is a very important thing, and I'm glad that Coty caught it. I'm glad they owned it. I'm not glad that it happened, but understand that if you are writing and you are writing for major publications, or you are simply trying to deliver the news, make sure it's actually the news. Make sure you're doing your homework. Make sure you're fact checking. Make sure to the best of your ability that it is accurate. And if it ends up not being accurate, then own it. It's one of the most important things that we can do, because if we can own it, even when we make mistakes, it helps move the ball forward to ensuring that the rest of the population eventually will once again come around to understanding that all we're trying to do is actually deliver the facts as best we can. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter, Nick AESP, where I'm going to try to be honest, direct, and straight. And if I'm not, I'll let you know. Same with YouTube, where you should subscribe. Please subscribe. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.